The Onaga led me to a teleportation circle they had happened upon one day. I was in luck. They said they had chased some human fellow to it, and he used it to escape them. They would have followed, but they weren't quite sure how to use it. I told them I would give it a try since I had some knowledge of teleportation circles. I may have told the Onaga a little white lie. I did know how to operate the teleportation circle. I just didn't plan on taking the Onaga with me.
Hey, wait.
Bye! I appeared in a desert, relieved to get away from the Onaga. I made my way through the desert, and I was regretting my escape from the Onaga. I found myself in a village of huts, where the Haresian people lived. The Haresians were a rabbit folk who lived on the eastern end of the continent of Foegilo. I had heard a little bit about them from a few, very few, books I was able to find. They seemed friendly, but many people did not visit them. They were notorious for something, but I could not remember what it was. They had been ignored for years until a few explorers discovered that they made the best chocolate in the world. Many tried to find the recipe, but due to the Haresian language being the hardest language to understand, there was no way to communicate it. I can't imagine the Haresians would tell anyway. I tried to see if they had any tales to tell, but the language barrier made it near impossible. I found who I thought was the chief, who did their best to tell me something.
Pork porkin, gorga bork. Pork pork pork. Pork pork. Pork 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 pork.
Perhaps I led you all astray. I was hoping the chief knew a bit of common, but no luck there. I searched the village for anything that could tell me a story. I was in luck. A kindly villager had given me a few stone tablets. The Haresians seemed to tell stories through pictures. They were crude, but I felt I could discern the tale a little bit. The chief had pointed to a picture of what I could only assume was the protagonist and said,
Raborbatork.
So I went from there. There was a capricious young Haresian named Raborbatorg. Raborbatorg was known for causing trouble. There was the time he had upset Brogorborg, the dragon, when he had acquired some of the creature's hoard. To make up for his transgressions, Raborbatorg took the sap from the legendary glass tree, which is a tree known for having transparent bark. Its sap granted Raborbatorg the gift of invisibility. The dragon couldn't find the mischievous Haresian, so it eventually gave up. Raborbatorg shared the sap with his people, and that is why Haresians can become invisible. I didn't know Haresians could turn invisible. That's interesting. Raborbatorg had many adventures, and misadventures, until the invaders came. It was hard to make out what the invaders were supposed to be. They were drawn rather crudely, so I will stick to just calling them the invaders. Anyway, these invaders seemed to want something, or they would threaten to enslave Raborbatorg's people. I'm guessing they wanted food. I wish these people spoke common. Let's press on. So Raborbatorg went to find food, I'm guessing, to satiate the invaders' hunger for conquest. Raborbatorg set out on his quest. The first thing he needed was milk, I guess. Raborbatorg went to meet a magical cow. There was no name for this creature on the tablet, so I will call it Magicow. Why not? So Raborbatorg met with the Magicow and asked, Oh, great Magicow. I know there is no dialogue on the tablets, but I am trying to fill in the blanks here. Bear with me. Anyway, oh, great Magicow, may I have your milk?
I will give you my milk, but you must do something for me.
Anything, oh, great bovine.
I need you to bring me. Bring me?
I looked through the tablet, but there seems to be a few carvings that were rubbed out and lost, so let's see. What do cows like? She asked for,
Hay. I want hay.
We'll go with that. So Raborbatorg said, I will go get your hay, O great magical cow. So Raborbatorg went to get the hay. My apologies, I think I had some of the slabs out of order, but I think I made a good guess. So Raborbatorg found himself at the farm of what looks like a kangaroo. Oh, that's a Kangorigine. I've heard of them. Anyway, Raborbatorg talked to the Kangorigine farmer. Oh, great Kangorigine farmer, I need your hay to save my people. Sadly, the Kangorigine farmer was not interested in helping, I think.
I don't care about your people. Give me gold or leave.
But I have no gold, good sir.
I have no hay for you. Leave.
Robobatorg would not be deterred by the farmer's rudeness. He would get the hay a different way. Later that night, Robobatorg returned to the farm to acquire the hay. Robobatorg returned to the magic cow. I have returned and brought you much hay. May I now have your milk? The magic cow sneered at the Haresian.
Oh, this is not enough hay. You cannot have my milk.
The magic cow proceeded to eat the hay that Robobatorg brought. Robobatorg was upset, so he decided he would acquire the milk as he had acquired the hay. Later that night, Robobatorg snuck back when the magic cow was sleeping, managed to milk her without waking her. Robobatorg made off with the milk, thinking that he would need more for his recipe. Robobatorg went to find the next ingredient. He was going to need sugar. Robobatorg found a field of sugar cane. He was delighted by his luck until a creature charged towards him. Robobatorg found himself face to face with looks like a dragon, but smaller. No wings. Maybe it's a drake. Let's call it a drake. Why not? Robobatorg encountered the sugar drake. Sure. The sugar drake spoke. Yes, the sugar drake talks too, because why? I said so. The sugar drake said,
What are you doing in my sugarcane field?
Robobatorg went to say something, then just ran on.
Huh?
Robobatorg ran through the sugar cane, grabbing a few stalks as he ran. Robobatorg found his path blocked by a giant boulder. Huh? Robobatorg heard the sugar drake coming closer. Robobatorg looked around frantically, trying to find an escape, until he remembered he could go invisible. He smacked himself in the head. Before becoming invisible, the sugar drake ran through the sugar cane. When it reached the giant boulder, it stopped in its tracks to find that its quarry had disappeared.
Where is he?
The sugar drake stalked off through the stalks in search of the Haresian. Robobatorg reappeared and breathed a sigh of relief. Now that Robobatorg had his milk and sugar, now he needed cocoa beans. He knew that the best cocoa beans would be found in the Yum Yum Oasis. I see a picture of trees with various food items on them. That's why I'm going to call this place the Yum Yum Oasis. So, there you go. The Yum Yum Oasis seemed to be home to some Koalians. I heard a little bit about them. They were known to be docile, although I think these ones were mean from the look of it. Robobatorg confronted the Koalians to try and talk to them for some reason. Oh, great Koalians, may I? Robobatorg ran, with the Koalians chasing him. Robobatorg snuck back into the Yum Yum Oasis in the dead of night. I don't know why he didn't do that in the first place. Anyway, so Robobatorg picked several cocoa beans before being chased off by the Koalians. Again. Now that Robobatorg had his milk, sugar, cocoa beans, he needed one last ingredient. Alright, so the tablets that mentioned the last ingredients seem to be missing. I think that was on purpose. I will do my best to continue. Robobatorg got to work making the chocolate. Robobatorg presented the chocolate to the invaders and they ate heartily. The invaders left since their hunger was satisfied, I guess. There was so much rejoicing over the invaders leaving and the finding of the world's most delicious chocolate. However, the persons, to be persons, let's go with it. The persons that Robobatorg had acquired his ingredients from had arrived for their revenge.
How dare you steal more hay?
And my milk.
And my sugar.
The Koalians just roared. Robobator calmed the situation. My friends, please. I am sorry for borrowing your property. Please, indulge in the fruits of my and your labor. So the Kangorigine farmer, the Magicow, the Sugar Drake, and the Koalians feasted on the chocolate. Robobator was pleased, until he heard.
Say, how did you make this chocolate?
Robobator didn't want to give up the secret of the chocolate. That night, Robobator would accomplish his greatest heist. When the Haresians woke up the next day, they were asked by the Kangorigine farmer.
How did you make that chocolate?
One of the Haresians went to answer the Kangorigine farmer.
You began pork, 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 pork.
But what came out of the Haresian's mouth was an incomprehensible language.
What?
The Magicow inquired about the chocolate.
How did you make that delicious chocolate?
But as the Haresian tried to answer him, all that came out was...
What?
The Sugar Drake inquired about the chocolate.
How did you make the chocolate?
The Haresian tried to answer the Sugar Drake.
Sprechen Zorky Dorky Horty Dork Minority Dork Malarky Dork Minority Dork Horty Dork Zordork Wolordy Dork Budordy Dork.
But the speech was incomprehensible.
What?
The Koalians tried to ask about the chocolate. In their own way. Haresian tried to speak to them, but yet again...
Get him my petaka sokoda. La patata sublada. Chapisavata gets a mica to banto.
The Haresians could not be understood. Robobator left his people to never be heard from again. I do hope I did the tale justice by my retelling. I will Hey, what are you doing? That's mine! Is this thing on? G'day, mates. Seems I got me hands on an orb witness. Well, them Haresians traded it for me for some food I had on me. I don't think he, or she, understood what they had, which was great for me. Where are my manners? My name is Sterwin. I'll start with how I came into the world. My mum, well, she didn't really want to be a mom, so she let me in the desert. To expire. I don't know how long I was in the desert, mostly due to being a little joey, but I knew it was long enough for me to cry myself to unconsciousness. I woke to the sound of voices.
I say, Deirdre, I found something.
What's this?
Well, it's a baby.
I was found by a kind gnome couple by the names of Alexander and Deirdre Scope. They raised me as if I was their own.
Here comes the firebox.
While they taught me about the world around me.
What's this? Very good.
I was a fast learner. I learned so much about the land of my birth from these outsiders until, well, they went on a search of the elusive Tyrannosaurus, and, they never returned. I was 15 years of age when I lost my found family. I was so angry, I wanted to find that Tyrannosaurus and kill it. But they would have tainted the memory of my parents. I remember what they would tell me.
Hate hinders.
Love learns.
So I decided the best revenge, or should I say, the best way to honor their memory was to continue their research. I spent my whole life studying the creatures of Foegilo, and now I have a way to tell you about them, so come with me and learn about the fauna of Foegilo. There's one very interesting and very dangerous creature that I want to introduce you to, the Smat. We are at a watering hole surrounded by tall grass. which is the favourite hunting ground of the smat. Now, I put hunting ground in quotes because the smat doesn't necessarily hunt its prey. I'll explain more as we get closer. Now, if you are looking at what I'm looking at, you would see a boulder with a rabbit on top, but you'd be mistaken, and if you got closer, you'd be dead. Let's take a closer look. Ah! I'm back, everyone. Managed to get away from that bugger. Lost the tip of my tail, but I kept the corn kernels. Oh, by the way, I meant to tell you that their bite turns their prey to corn. No one knows why that happens. I might try to learn more at a later date. Anyway, let's look at some different creatures. We're going to track down the elusive Laxodactyl. Laxodactyls are a bird, reptile type creature. Excuse me a minute. I found a shelf to take a break on. Found my way to the Laxodactyl nest. It's out hunting, I can only assume, leaving her eggs. It's interesting because Laxodactyls raise their eggs in a mated pair. One will go hunt while the other stays. I'm surprised there isn't one. Oh no, that's the mother. Sorry, mates. I was interrupted before I could tell you about the Laxodactyl's main attack. You see, it fires quills from its tail that inject their prey with a sleeping poison. Luckily for me, Mama Laxodactyl merely wanted me to stay away from the babies, so she didn't finish the job. The nap made me forget about me broken ribs. Once I heal up a bit, I'm going to introduce you to one of my favorite sea creatures, the Leancer. We are by the beach, where the Leancers love to hunt. Now, if you've never seen a Leancer, they look like the combination of a lobster and a lion. They are ambush predators, so they can strike at any. Ah! I managed to get away from that sea bugger. I lost a bit more of my tail, but all in all, I made it out alive. I'm going to take a few days to recover, so until next time. Good day, mates. All night. I can't tell in this cave. Anyway, I have good and bad news. The good news, after some time I found the elusive Tyrannosaurus, the beast that killed my parents. The bad news, the Tyrannosaurus saw me. One of its three-horned heads glared at me. In its rage at me invading its privacy, I ran from it. I had to find shelter once it started up a storm. By the way, the creature can create storms. So I took shelter in this cave. I think I'm safe. Oh no! It found me! There you are! To watch the Kangorigine's recording. Although he purchased what he knew was a stolen item, he did have a lot of interesting information, I thought. I do hope he survived. I travelled through the unforgiving Foegilian desert, the hot wind burning me and bits of sand cutting me like knives. I, luckily, found an oasis with a group of Koalians who were very hospitable. Surprisingly, since there was another story where I heard they were savages. The Koalians treated me with the utmost kindness. As I got to know them, I told them about my mission. They seemed intrigued, but their peaceful lives didn't create too many tales. I appreciated the hospitality, but I had to move on until one day the Koalians and I were enjoying each other's company when we received news that a Koalian elder had passed. Although I had only known these people for a few days, I felt their hurt. I was asked to be a part of the funeral, and I was honored, but not happy about it. I attended the funeral. It was obvious everyone loved this elder who was being buried. The Koalian shaman, at least that's what I thought they were, recited a funeral rite, which I thought sounded beautiful. I asked if I could include it in my project, and the Koalians, much to my delight, said yes.
Oh, my mother, thank you for letting me go. into the world through your vessel, so I screamed because I had to leave you. Shh. Calm, little one. But your vessel gave love, that was true. I would roll in the warm sand, basking in the sun's grace, as it felt like your warm embrace. Whenever I climbed the trees, spending the day taking in the breeze. Night comes after a while, and a look at the stars and see your smile. When I am become older, leaving childhood behind,
Hello.
so that I could find someone in kind. We brought more of your children into the land, making your world a little more grand. I grew older, coming closer to my twilight. I could feel the fading of my light. One day, I closed my eye, and they never opened again, leaving behind family and friend. Although I leave, love is something I will never lack, because I know Mother welcomes back.
Koalian's eye had a good cry. Afterward, I was sent on my way to continue my mission. I made my way across the desert, the sand biting at my body. I made my way to the great city of Aktenan, and I must say it was quite a sight. I heard a few things about it, but to see the city, oh yes, this was a city made of actual gold. It was breathtaking. When I came to the gate, the Keelnotchie guards glared at me suspiciously, and curiously, as I looked at them in the same way. The Keelnotchie were an interesting people that seemed to be an amalgam of different creatures. They had the leg of ostriches, the body and wings of a vulture, and the head and neck of a cobra. But the mouth ended in a beak, with 2 points instead of 1. Fascinating. I was curious how it would get them to allow me into the city. Once I told the guards about my project, it was surprisingly easy to get into the city. They gave me quite the tour. It was beautiful. But I couldn't really pay that much attention because I had a mission. I was surprised to see that I was being led to the palace. The palace was as beautiful as the city. I was so surprised to be invited, considering how isolated I had the Keelnotchie were. I was introduced to the Sultan of the Mask. Apparently, Aktenan was ruled by an oligarchy, and each sultan was in charge of a different principle of the city. The Sultan of the Mask was in charge of the arts. He didn't have as much power as the other sultans, but he still had an important position. According to the Sultan, at least. The Sultan and I talked. He let me know he did not have a tale for me, but his wife did. He told me that his wife was the greatest storyteller he'd ever met. In fact, that's why he married her. As I sat with his wife, Skerat, she told me a great tale.
It was centuries ago. During one night, Amunet, the Sultana of the Mosque, was in disguise as she moved through the streets of Aktenan. She was risking a lot, but she had to see him. Amunet made her way into a back alley and waited and waited and waited until she got frustrated and started to leave. When
It's my love.
Amunet turned to see Maheshwa, her secret lover. She gave him angriest glare.
How dare you make me wait?
Maheshwa smiled.
Don't you love the anticipation?
Not that much anticipation.
Maheshwa took Amunet's hands in his
My deepest apologies, dear one.
and stared deeply into her eyes.
How can I make it up to you?
Amunet smiled.
You know what I want.
The two embraced and shared a kiss. Amunet sneaked away towards the palace after her tryst with Maheshwa, making certain no one saw her. Maheshwa wasn't your average Keelnotchie, because he wasn't a Keelnotchie at all. He was a creature that loved sowing chaos, and what better way to do it than with an official's wife? However, he was bold of his tryst with the fair Amunet, So he decided to leave Aktenan. And our story. A year passed from that moment. Amunet gave birth. Amunet looked down at her new child with her husband, Darwish, who looked down with pride.
What a beautiful boy to continue my line.
Amunet looked away nervously. Years passed, and the Sultan's son, Genie, had grown into his 10th year of life. Genie went to the finest school in Aktenan. Well, finest to everyone else. Genie didn't think it was so fine. It was lunchtime, and Genie was seated by himself as usual. Meanwhile, two human slaves, Hanbal and Nakia, were sweeping a hall. Hanbal gave Nakia a glare.
No,
Nakia gave Hanbal a perplexed look.
I didn't say anything.
Hanbal sneered.
you don't have to. You complain about the same thing every day.
And you're sick of it?
I'm sick of you complaining about it.
Don't you have dreams of more?
I'm a slave. There is no point.
Nakia sneered at Hanbal.
I'm glad I have your positive company to keep me going.
As Genie was eating his lunch, he heard a voice
Hefrik.
that filled him with dread. Making their way towards Genie was Omar and his cronies, ready to start trouble. Nakia looked up from his sweeping
Huh?
when he heard the kids picking on the wet one. Anbal saw his friend getting distracted.
Don't.
Nakia gave Hanbal a pleading look.
But
Hanbal glared at Nakia.
Just don't.
Nakia sneered at Hanbal. Omar and his cronies surrounded Genie.
Who told you you could sit here?
Genie did his best not to meet Omar's gaze. He had been beaten up for less.
I have nowhere else to sit.
Omar glared angry at Genie. Nakia looked back at the little boy who was being bullied with concern. Hanbal stared at his friend.
Don't do it.
Nakia looked to his friend pleadingly. Hanbal kept his stare.
Don't do it.
Nakia shook his head, threw down his broom, and stomped over to the kids.
hey, stop it!
Hanbal rolled his eyes and shook his head.
Idiot.
Omar and his cronies closed in on Genie.
We'll teach you a lesson. For what? I didn't do anything.
Leave him alone!
Omar and his cronies turned their attention to an angry-looking human slave.
Let him be!
What do you think you're doing, slave?
Realization came to Nakia. In his righteous anger, he forgot his place. His bravery diminished as he knew these kids would talk to their parents. Parents who could end his job and his life. Genie was relieved when Omar turned his attention to the slave. But his relief dissipated when he realized what could happen to his savior. Omar and his cronies went to pick on the human slave.
Do you know who my father is?
Nakia shrugged as he backed away from the Keelnotchie children.
I don't think I do, but I don't think he would approve of you picking on other children.
You clearly don't know who my father is.
Genie watched the scene in fear. He knew what Omar was capable of, being his main victim. He closed his eyes and spoke to whatever would listen to him.
Please, someone, anyone, please help.
Nakia raised his hands in a meager defense.
Now, kids, let's not do something rash.
Omar and his cronies got closer.
You should have thought this through, slave.
Suddenly, a wind started to pick up
Huh?
Huh?
and got stronger. And stronger. Until it became a gale that scooped up Omar and his cronies, but seemingly didn't touch Nakia. The wind carted Omar and his cronies out of the room. Nakia shrugged.
That was convenient. Whatever that was.
Genie ran up to Nakia.
Thank you. Thank you.
Nakia gave the small, weird Keelnotchie child a curious look.
You're welcome.
How did you do that? Are you a wizard?
No, I'm...
An idea came to Nakia. He smiled at the Keelnotchie child as he leaned towards him.
I'm a genie.
That's amazing. You're a...
Nakia clapped a hand over Genie's mouth and put a finger to his own lips. Later that day, Darwish was in his study looking over several plays.
This is the 40th play about thieves.
There was a knock at the door. Darwish looked up from his desk toward the door in annoyance.
I said I didn't want to be disturbed.
Oh, sorry, father.
Darwish glared at the door.
Ginny, what are you doing home?
School is over, father.
Darwish scratched his head.
Really?
Darwish looked around and shook his head in disbelief.
I've been in here too long.
Darwish turned his attention back to the door.
What do you want?
I brought someone home.
What did I tell you about bringing animals home?
Darwish opened the door
What did you...
to find himself facing a human slave.
What the...
Nakia waved to the noble Keelnotchie.
Hello?
Darwish stared at Nakia, perplexed.
Hello?
Darwish looked to his son.
What is this?
This is Nakia, my new friend, father.
Is Inakia a type of human? That's just my name, sir.
Darwish glared at Nakia.
I was not speaking to you.
Nakia nodded and averted his eyes from the noble Keelnotchie. Darwish turned his attention back to his son.
He chased some bullies off with.
Genie caught Nakia giving him the quiet down gesture. Darwish looked at Nakia, who acted as if he were looking at something else. Darwish glared at him before returning his attention to his son. Genie was nervous, but figured out what to say.
Scary faces.
Darwish gave his son a suspicious look.
Scary face.
Genie nodded with a forced smile on his face. Darwish looked at Nakia again, who also nodded with a forced smile. Darwish shrugged.
I can see it.
Nakia was taken aback, but Darwish did not notice or care.
Remember, Ginny, humans are a big responsibility. You have to feed them. You You have to clean their leavings.
Nakia shook his head.
That won't be necessary.
Darwish glared at Nakia. Nakia pretended to zip his mouth closed and averted his eyes. Darwish turned his attention back to his son.
Now leave me be. I have a lot of work to do.
Genie bowed to his father.
Thank you, father.
Nakia bowed as well.
Yes, thank you.
Darwish sneered
Whatever.
before slamming the door. Genie smiled at Nakia.
That went well.
Meanwhile, Omar had gone home to talk to his father, who was a high-ranking officer of the Sultan of the Soul. Omar's father, Abbasi, was dealing with some shady characters when Omar ran into the room.
Father!
Abisi glared at his son.
Son, can't you see I'm busy?
One of the slaves hurt me.
Abisi was shocked.
What? They let a slave touch my son at that school? Kids will roll.
Never touched me, father.
Abisi shook his head in confusion.
What?
Night came over the city. Genie climbed into his bed with Nakia watching him.
So, where am I sleeping?
Oh, they made you a bed over there.
Genie pointed to a corner of the room with a couple of blankets and pillows on the floor. Nakia forced a smile.
Oh, great. Looks comfy.
Genie smiled, oblivious to Nakia's discomfort.
Will you wait till I go to sleep?
Nakia smiled and nodded.
Of course.
Genie gave Nakia the big puppy dog eyes.
Will you protect me forever?
Nakia nodded and smiled again.
Of course.
Genie was fast asleep. Nakia watched the little Keelnotchie boy sleep with a smile on his face.
They are so cute when they are sleeping.
Nakia got
Time to leave.
Nakia slowly closed the door behind him. Wincing until it was closed, Nakia breathed a sigh of relief when no one seemed to hear his escape. Meanwhile, Abbasi was in a dark room with a group of shady men. You see, Abbasi was a sultan as well, but a sultan that ruled Aktenan's underworld. He was the sultan of the Crooked Dagger.
My son brought something interesting to my attention. Apparently, a slave possesses magical powers. He was acquired by the Sultan of the Masked Sun.
One of the shady men raised their hands.
What do you wish us to do?
Abisi smiled evilly.
I want you to acquire him for us.
Nakia made his way down a long hallway. Nakia walked down another hallway. Nakia walked down yet another hallway.
Huh?
3 of Abisi's goons sneaked through the city through the night. Nakia walked down yet another hallway. Nakia walked down yet another hallway.
How big is this place?
Abisi's grooms climbed the palace of the Sultan of the Mosque. Nakia walked around the corner to find himself facing a Keelnotchie woman. Amunet smiled at the human slave.
Hello? Are you lost?
Genie awoke from a bad dream he couldn't remember.
Ah!
Genie looked around the room in surprise.
Huh?
He looked towards Nakia's bed to find he wasn't there. The Abisi goons goons sneaked through the holes, avoiding the guards. Nakia's back was to a wall as Amunet moved closer with a demure smile on her face.
Do you need help finding your way back to your quarters?
Nakia shook his head furiously.
I think I'm all right.
Amunet's seductive smile broadened.
I could help you.
Nakia smiled a forced smile.
It's okay. I'll find my.
Amunet's smile faded into a stern look.
I insist.
Nakia took a lot from Amunet's serious look. He knew he shouldn't refuse.
Oh. Sounds good.
Genie walked through the halls trying to find his pet.
Nakia.
Abbasi's goons saw Genie wandering through the halls. They watched him intently. Amunet had Nakia pinned against a wall.
I'm not sure about this, Your Majesty.
Amunet kissed Nakia's neck.
Don't you find me beautiful?
Of course.
He didn't.
But the Sultan may find out.
Amunet rolled her eyes.
The Sultan misses much.
Nakia gave the Sultana a sympathetic look.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Genie continued to roam the halls, searching for his human.
Nakia?
Abbasi's goons proceeded to follow the young noble.
I still love him, but he paid more attention to his worker than me.
Nakia patted Amunet on the back.
It's all right. It's all right.
Genie turned the corner to see Nakia holding his mother.
Nakia? Mother?
Nakia and Amunet looked at Genie in surprise. Nakia gently pushed Amunet away.
It's not what it looks like.
Genie gave Nakia a puzzled look.
What does it look like?
Oh, right. You're a child.
Amunet glared at Nakia. Nakia knew he would suffer on account of that look.
Oh.
Suddenly, a hooded figure held a dagger to Genie's throat.
Go and move.
Nakia didn't know how long he stood there watching the knife at Genie's throat. His brain raced to find something to do, but nothing came to him. Genie was so scared as he felt the dagger blade close to his throat. He looked to Nakia, who seemed powerless. Then Genie remembered Nakia's gifts.
I wish this pendant was gone.
Not going to be that easy, little one.
The goon found himself becoming transparent
Huh?
before disappearing entirely. The Abbasi goon appeared above an ocean before falling in. Nakia and Amunet looked at Genie in shock, while Genie smiled at Nakia.
Thanks.
Amunet turned a confused gaze to Nakia.
Thanks.
Nakia shrugged.
You're welcome.
The other two Abbasi goons saw what transpired in horror. Amunet, Nakia, and Genie turned their attention to the remaining goons. Seeing that they were caught,
Oh no! Run!
both goons tried to run. Genie snared.
I want them gone too.
Both goons disappeared. One goon appeared in a jungle.
Huh?
The goon looked around frantically.
Where am I?
The goon turned around when he heard a roar.
Huh?
The goon found himself facing a tiger.
Oh no.
The last goon appeared in the desert, a few feet in the air. Genie nodded in satisfaction.
Good work, Nakia.
Amunet looked at Nakia. Nakia spotted the noblewoman looking at him and quickly got into the position of just casting a spell. He smiled.
No problem at all.
Amunet eyed Nakia suspicious.
Yes, thank you, Nakia.
Nakia forced a smile toward Amunet. At this point, he knew that she knew he had no real gift. Amunet felt a little hand tug on her dress. She looked down to see Genie looking up at her.
Mother, please don't tell Father about Nakia's abilities.
Amunet shot a glare at Nakia, who was still forcing a smile. She looked back down to her son and smiled.
Your father doesn't need to know.
Genie smiled.
Thank you. I don't think he would understand.
I know he wouldn't understand.
Genie looked to Nakia.
Let's go to bed, Nakia. I remade yours.
Nakia sneered.
Thanks.
Get to be Ginny. I need to talk to Nakia.
Genie shrugged.
Good night.
Amunet smiled at her son. Genie walked away. Amunet turned her attention to Nakia.
Nothing happened tonight.
Nakia shrugged.
Whatever are you talking about?
Amunet smirked.
That's a good human.
Nakia gave Amunet a smile as he went to join Genie.
By the way,
Nakia stopped and turned to look at Amunet. The noblewoman smiled.
careful wandering by yourself. Not all the guards know you, and it can be treacherous outside of the palace.
Amunet's smile faded to a very serious look.
I would hate to see anything happen to you. My son values you so.
Oh. Message researched, madam.
A thin smile came across Amunet's beak.
Good night.
Nakia made his way down the hall looking somber. Amunet thought back to her secret lover years ago. In the middle of the desert, the Avasi goon picked himself up off the ground and dusted himself off, looked towards the horizon,
The master should know about this.
and began walking.
It was a fascinating story, and it felt as if there was more. But I had to be fair. One story per culture.